And since we're just talking about Anderson Varejão's hair right now, I think we got to circle the wagons, bring it back. Not bringing it back to just Blake Griffin and K-Love, but more of the trades that we see happening, because February 18th is the trade deadline. We're getting close up.
We got 2 weeks.
Got 2 weeks. We're getting close to the All-Star game, which not excited about, but I'm excited for the trade deadline. Trade deadlines are the best times outside of the NFL, because the NFL trade deadline sucks.
2 weeks from this upcoming Thursday.
But MLB, NHL, and NBA's trade deadlines rock, and I'm excited for it. Any big names that you're thinking should be moved? I'll start off first so you guys can think. Get in your heads. I'm thinking Boogie.
Is he gonna move? Like, here's the thing I think though, and when you said what big name is gonna move, my first thought went nobody. This may be a draft year where nobody big moves, and it's just like little like dinkers and dunkers where it's like, oh, okay, this guy went here, but who cares about him? And this team got this guy because they needed to add a bench player. I don't think maybe this is the year nobody big moves.
But then you could also argue that, I mean, every conference is so tight and that people are just trying to get into the playoffs or improve their teams for the playoffs.
That's true. There might be just small moves to tweak the roster just enough to get them over that hump.
Or just the thing that people might panic, like, oh, they're going to get this guy, so we need to make a trade to get this guy. And, like, you know, if someone gets a DeMarcus Cousins, then there might be need a trade to get a Blake Griffin to kind of even it up.
That's the way it worked out.
So do I. I wish that happened. But, I mean, you could also say, like, it's happened in the MLB before. It's happened around, you know,
MLB
in many different leagues.
You go full arms race. I love it every year.
So
NBA, it seems like trying to move a big name out of a city is just such a hassle.
What was the last big name to be actually moved? Like
in a mid-year trade?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Roy Hibbert, or was that off-season?
That was off-season.
That's a big name, is Roy Hibbert.
Well,
and that was after he's washed up.
Well, at the time, it was big-ish.
Washed
Maybe Dwight.
up.
Was Dwight the last one when he went to L.A.?
Or Houston.
From Orlando?
Maybe, well...
There's not that many big names that move mid-season.
Well, then let's make this the year. DeMarcus Cousins is going to Boston.
They need to quit winning games for him to go anywhere.
And you're right. They need to stop losing games. But then again, is Vivek Ranadive enough of a man to realize his team sucks and is not built for the future, that he's got to trade his piece to rebuild this team? Because first off, Sacramento is not like a bright spot for free agents. So if you keep DeMarcus, Rondo's going to leave because he's having this. He's balling out here.
The last minute pickup of the person nobody would even want on their team, because he went out like absolute team cancer last postseason
in Dallas.
I mean, it was brutal. And then he comes in here and performs, and I'm like, that's old Rondo. Like, where the fuck was he after the Celtics?
Not just that, the mind tricks at the line of, okay, we're going to play some musical chairs. Okay, now try to shoot it. Oh, wait, you missed it.
And then another thing with, like, Rondo, like, all right, he wants to, he's having this breakout season, so someone's going to pay him, and he can go from a place that's not Sacramento to a place that's actually, like, desirable to be in. Maybe, like, an maybe LA Clippers, back up Chris Paul and be back with Doc Rivers. But I'm thinking, they're not going to be able to bring in a big-name free agent unless they're, like, trading for him, and the guy has no choice to come here. So you're not going to be able to build a team around DeMarcus for right now. You have Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins and Rondo right now, and that team's not going to win a championship. That team's not, it's barely competing for a playoff spot. So I think you got to restart. I don't think Vivek's going to do it, but if he does, I want to see Boogie go to the Celtics, because the Celtics are in desperate need of a big. And the
wait. You say the Celtics are in desperate need of a big? They've got the most bigs in the NBA.
Yeah, but they all suck.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Jared Sullinger's fat and can't run. You can barely shoot. Kelly Olynyk's only good for breaking K-Love's arm.
Yeah.
Cody Zeller's... Or is it Tyler? No, it's Cody. Yeah, it's Cody Zeller. Yeah. Cody Zeller's trash. I mean, all of these bigs.
Whatever Zeller it is.
Yeah, I mean, both Zellers are trash. I mean, they have bigs, but that doesn't mean they're good. They're kind of like the Cleveland bigs. They have quantity over quality.
Yeah,
and Boogie is the biggest quality big man. I mean, probably outside of Anthony Davis, he's the best big man in the league. So, I mean, I feel like Boogie would make this team much better, because you got the Drash size comparison and Isaiah Thomas and Boogie Cousins, who have also played together in Sacramento. So I feel you got some, chemistry there, and the trade works out. It's DeMarcus Cousins for David Lee, which that's basically a cap dump because he's done after this year.
Yep.
Jared Sullinger, which again, cap dump. He's a free agent after this year. RJ Hunter could possibly be a guard of the future, could shoot.
It's true.
And then you got the first round pick of the Brooklyn Nets, which is looking like the third pick in the draft if the lottery plays out like with odds. So you're getting a draft pick for the future that could be a top player. Maybe it could even turn into Ben Simmons. So, I mean, it could be a very useful trade for Sacramento to rebuild, and then Celtics are getting DeMarcus Cousins, who is just a complete game changer, and a guy with him like Isaiah Thomas. I mean, he's kind of like Rondo in a way, where he's just a better scorer, and he could pass it off to DeMarcus, so his assist numbers will go up. Marcus Smart will be able to be spreading out the floor. He can shoot more. Avery Bradley can shoot more. So I feel like this is just a perfect trade for the Celtics. It's a big name. I feel like that's the thing that I want to see happen. But like Ricky said, are they even going to trade him?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love that trade from both sides. It gives the Kings so much potential to grow as a team in the future and gives them the assets they need to do that and enough cap, like you said, to dump off next season. Mm-hmm. And on the other end, you get rid of the biggest problem that the Celtics have, which is a bunch of middle-tier bigs who just take up space. That whole rotation of bigs, you're basically being screwed over by all these smaller, more athletic lineups because you're out there having to play 3+ bigs every night for quality minutes, and you're just basically sitting on your hands watching yourselves getting run up and down the court left and right, and it's like, shit. The good news is you put Boogie in there, you get some of the bigs out of town. I think you got a solid lineup. I mean, that team can compete in the playoffs.
Yeah. Now, I got a question about Boston. I only do this because right now I'm trying to work something.
You got some crazy...
I'm trying
You
to...
were also the guy who traded Blake Griffin, J.J. Redick for Kevin Love and Matthew Dellavedova.
Yeah,
so you're obviously an awful
works.
GM.
However, it works in some world.
Here's the premise of the trade I'm trying to get worked out. Here's the 3 teams I've got. Houston, Indiana, and Boston. And the reason being is, first off, I'll be honest, if there's one big name I feel like needs to go, it's Dwight, because for the Rockets, we mentioned it on an older podcast, Sean, where I just feel like the Rockets would work better without Dwight. And with them, they're going to be getting a new coach next year. Hopefully it's Tom Thibodeau. But one of the teams that may need a big, the Indiana Pacers. Another team that Dave has mentioned 2 seconds ago has way too many bigs, maybe could take in a guy like Trevor Ariza, who the Rockets want to get rid of. So the pieces I have in place, I'm just trying to find the little okay, because the Pacers need to get rid of cap room. They're getting Howard. The Rockets right now get David Lee and Monta Ellis. And the Celtics get Trevor Ariza and Jordan Hill. The only thing is I have to find more cap for the Pacers to get rid of in order to take on Dwight's $22 million. And I don't know where I'm going to find $8 million because they're not going to trade George Hill. They're not going to trade Paul George. Do they trade the young players? I don't know. That's the only way this is going to work.
You could put, I don't think that trade is going to work anyways, but, you put Stuckey to Houston. That will work cap room-wise. But, what's really in it for the Celtics? You get Trevor Ariza and you're dumping off David Lee, and you're also getting Jordan Hill. But, also, why are they giving all these guys to Boston when they're just giving up David Lee? So it's just kind of like an obvious choice for Boston.
Boston's losing just David Lee. He goes to Houston. Houston's losing Ariza and Howard. They go to Boston and Indiana. Indiana, just to get Howard, is losing Hill, Ellis, and Stuckey.
That destroys both the Pacers and Rockets because the Rockets, they don't have a big now.
Yeah.
Outside of Capella.
The win analysis only brings the Pacers down 1 win. And it gives
the
them
win analysis knows.
Yeah.
that's what I would
But the Rockets are also getting screwed over, losing 6 wins. So, I don't think that's going to work out. But I agree that Dwight, if there's another big that's going to move, it's going to be Dwight. But I don't know if Indiana or Boston, sounds right in your head, but I feel like those teams aren't really going to fit.
I don't know. I've seen Indy with a big.
Yeah. Hey, Roy Hibbert was great when he started off. He was great in Parks and Rec.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was, actually. Before he crumbled in the playoffs.
He's better when he's grabbing shrimp.
There you go.
Get in debt left shrimp. Or maybe just bring back all the Pacer bigs. David West, too.
David West.
So, that might be maybe the stretch 4 is what they need. Maybe not Dwight Howard. But, I could see Dwight moving, but again, Houston's kind of climbing back in the playoff race. It seems like they might be gelling at some points, and it seems like they're falling off now.
Yeah. I think they just need a little time.
Yeah, I think it's more time, and they're going to sneak in, and then maybe they can be dangerous in the playoffs if they're going up against
Who knows
Dallas.
How many free throws they will take? Between Dwight and Harden, Jesus Christ.
Here's a successful trade just between the Rockets and the Celtics.
Okay.
And it hurts the Rockets a little bit, and it helps the Celtics maybe not as much more, but the Rockets would give up Ariza, Jones, and Sam Decker for David Lee.
How is that a good trade for either of those teams?
It's the win analysis for the trade.
So David Lee for Dwight Howard?
No, Dwight's not in this trade.
No,
Oh,
it's David Lee comes to the Rockets, and then Ariza, Jones, and Decker.
So he wants to take out
Boston.
their perimeter shooting and give them David Lee.
Because, and here's the win analysis.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not NBA 2K.
Yeah, the win
do you have
analysis
force trades
says
on too? This is what it's going through.
the win analysis says that Houston would go -2, Boston would go +3. And I'm just working out maybe like I took Indiana out. Okay, can I work a David Lee to Houston deal because Houston wants
does
to get
not
rid of
need
Trevor
David Lee
Ariza.
though.
This is that's a bad
This is
trade
getting
because I
sad.
mean Trevor Ariza's like
He's got
decent,
potential, yeah.
and David Lee's trash.
Yeah.
I mean you're freeing up a lot of cap space,
I'm
but
not
you're
saying
also
it's going
trying
to
to.
happen. I'm just saying it worked.
No.
I
I
worked
can
it
get
out.
a trade that
I
works
worked
too.
it
It could
out.
probably get like Steph Curry going to the Cavs for like
Absolutely.
Deli
what's
and Tristan Thompson.
But you know
There
it's
you
another
go.
player I do want to see traded, but we won't because he's injured? Joakim Noah.
I wish
want to
Noah
see
would
him
go.
trid from the Bulls.
As a
As Bulls
fan, too,
fans,
Yeah,
we're all
we're
pretty
all
much
Bulls
done with our
fans.
time here.
Yeah.
He is far and away removed from his defensive player of the year.
I love
run.
how
Yeah.
it was an article on ESPN. They're like, oh, some of the questions. Well, the Bulls had a question in their front court, but oh, wait, injuries kind of solved that because you took Joakim out, and now Taj Portis.
Thank
and
God for Bobby.
Nikola is like, hey, you know what? We're all gelling now. And it's like, just keep Noah away. If he wasn't injured, I would say trade him, move him, get him out of here.
Who are you trying to get? Who are you trying to get though? Like what position do the Bulls need to improve?
Bench. Any scoring off the bench, defense off the bench, anything off the bench.
I mean, if you're
That's what
looking
we
for
need.
bench points, there's always Swaggy P.
There's always Swaggy B, baby.
It's not like the Lakers need him. I mean, that's
No.
a team that
Mm-hmm.
they're just gonna dump cap because look, they're a shit team already. They're gonna go in and hope to continue rebuilding this team post Kobe era. So any team that needs scoring off the bench has an easy answer because there's one thing that man will do. It is shoot the ball. Doesn't matter where on the court he is, but he will shoot the ball and he'll end up scoring points for you eventually. So I mean, why not? Why not Swaggy P?
All right, Dave
I was
mentioned
thinking-
earlier when we brought
yeah.
up Joakim Noah. You said you would love him in a Timberwolves uni.
I think the swap for Pekovic would be interesting because think about this. They need somebody down low who can keep the ball moving and who doesn't absolutely kill the lane because they do have Karl Anthony Towns on that team.
Yeah.
And he is growing into
A stud?
I mean, an absolute stud. He's growing
Yeah.
into basically we're hoping for a Tim Duncan, esque career. I know it's early.
Might even, I mean,
But-
he looks like a better scorer than Tim.
I know. I didn't want to go there. I don't want
yeah.
to start making those comparisons. But he's young. He is much younger than Tim Duncan was coming into the league, less polished.
Yeah.
But he's able to put up great points, great boards, and good defensive effort. So, I mean, you put Joe in there. You got defense. You've got someone who's got a lot of playoff experience, yeah. And you got someone who can be like an emotional leader of that team. He drove the Bulls for several years, team on the back style.
I'm going to interject first before you, Ricky. So then Karl Anthony Towns is going to be mentored by Joakim Noah and Kevin Garnett.
Well, and here's the
Well,
thing about-
Garnett, I figure, is kind of done.
Before we
still
talk
mentoring.
about
Yeah.
mentoring, though,
Yeah.
the thing you got to think about, Joakim, this is the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
13. Then the biggest thing with a trade with Joakim
Mm-hmm.
would be that contract, that $13.4 million. I have a trade.
Yeah,
This
Pekovic is
a
at
total-
24 for 2 years,
this
though,
is-
so it's not that big of a difference.
I'm throwing this out here. This is just a trade that would work, would give Joakim off, give us some bench players, and it involves a player that the Memphis Grizzlies may be shopping around. We would trade Joakim Noah to the Grizzlies for Courtney Lee, 1-year contract, Mario Chalmers, 1-year contract, and Vinsanity.
No.
Uh,
If they're
bench
dumping, they're
players
dumping
and-
Jeff Green.
yeah. And
Well, Jeff Green, I was going to throw him in there, but he didn't have enough to build up to that. It's at 13.4 for Joe.
It's a lot of contract. I know.
I mean, Jeff Green, I looked at him, but he's at, 800,000.
you threw out you guys threw out bench players in Timberwolves. I got one. Noah for Kevin Martin, Tayshaun Prince, and Andre Miller. Prince and Miller just expiring contracts there, and then Kevin Martin scoring off the bench.
Kmart is, he's solid, and they already have a good outside perimeter shooting, so...
And they're backed up at the guards because they got Rubio, they got Wiggins, they got Levine, they got Muhammad who could play, and they got Tyus Jones.
And right now it's a whole lot of Levine and Wiggins, and they're doing a great job at it, but, yeah.
You never threw out your name. I mean, you threw out Noah. Who's your big name?
I think I think you could just straight up swap Pekovic for Ryan Anderson. Think about this. How crowded Ryan Anderson, like his game has, he hasn't been able to play his game on the Pelicans.
The Pistons are also very interested in Anderson.
But that's because who doesn't want a center who can shoot threes?
Well, I'm just saying, you said the Timberwolves. I'm thinking, well, the Pistons would be in on that too.
I don't know. It's the same thing. It's they have a defensive presence down low already. And Anderson, I'm sorry, I said center, power forward. Yeah. But I mean, in this day and age,
4 or 5,
same thing.
They can be the same.
So again, you've got somebody down low who you can just straight up ball with. And you want to stretch that court out. He can take threes. He's a great fit for both of those teams. I mean, yeah, Ryan Anderson, I think, will actually end up changing a lot of teams if he goes there. Like, we saw him in the past, and we hope for a much larger impact, but Pelicans just, it's not going to work.
And you're talking Ryan Anderson going to the Timberwolves, right?
Timberwolves, or no, actually, now that you bring up the Pistons,
I'm gonna throw this out there, and this is another one. Do the Pistons even trade this? A guy who's got a 1-year contract, similar salary to Ryan Anderson. Do they say, okay, let's do Brandon Jennings for Ryan Anderson straight up?
That would
1-year contracts, both around $18.5 million.
I could see that.
Pull that trigger? I mean, the Pelicans are getting $0.2 million or 200,000.
That's nothing.
Money.
In the NBA.
I get
nothing.
Yeah.
They get 200.
But they're close.
They get 0.2 money.
They're close. Yeah,
0.2 money. How do you not turn that down?
I could say if the Pelicans just give up on the season, because I mean Brandon Jennings is obviously he wants the ball in his hands 24/7. You know, I think he sleeps with the basketball in his hands.
He might just.
Brandon Jennings.
Yeah, I mean I just and you're gonna lose him at the end of the season, which is I think Pelicans kind of want. But I mean. I don't know. I mean, if they're giving up on the season, then maybe it will work. But I mean, you're also just you're dumping off cap that it's going to be gone anyways.
But at the same time, so Ryan Anderson, like he may be stunting the growth of like Anthony Davis. You're not going to see your bigs play as much because he's out there and he's a known commodity.
But they've also worked last year. It's not like they didn't work last year, Davis and Anderson.
I'm not saying they didn't work. I'm just saying it could be better.
All right. I mean. Davis is still having a crazy year, 22.9 points and 10.
He ain't no All-Star.
The All-Stars are shit, though. I don't agree with, like, Kobe starting, you got D. Wade starting over Jimmy, and then even the reserves are kind of bullcrap with Damian Lillard not even being on the All-Star team.
Another trade with the Timberwolves that includes Anderson. T-Wolves give up Pekovic. They get Anderson and Perkins. That's only a thing... No, that's a trade. It's like, you know what?
He doesn't want to be on. He doesn't want to be the Pelicans.
That's just for cap because of Pekovic's $12 million compared to the $8 million. But I mean, you're dumping some cap. If you can get Ryan Anderson on a bigger contract, maybe swap out Anderson for Pekovic and send him off to play with Anthony Davis in New Orleans.
Any final last? Does Brook Lopez go from Brooklyn? You think he goes?
How many years have we been talking about will Brook Lopez get traded?
Will Taj Gibson go as a Bulls homer?
I really don't like.
You'd rather see no.
Joe's the guy that has to go.
You want Joe out of town.
Well, he's the guy that has to go. I know,
you're not
but he's injured.
So with Bobby Portis' emergence, do you think we've seen enough of Bobby that we can pass off Taj?
Maybe.
He's still got value.
Do we because Taj has got 2 years left, so we could really just sit on him and trade him next year if we really wanted to.
Yeah, we could.
Because I mean, the thing with the Bulls is we've got so much, like Paul Gasol.
We've got so much, but we can't win.
I know, we can't win. But it's like with the backcourt, we got Bobby Portis, who is a young rookie. He's got 3 more years of just $1.3 million. So if he can kind of develop nicely, we've got Nikola, who's got next year still. They're talking about Paul Gasol being like, hey, we don't want to trade him. We want to re-sign him for the future. I'm not saying Taj isn't expendable, but maybe it's next year, not this year.
We've also been talking, you brought up like what we're talking about when Brook Lopez is going to be traded. We've been talking about Taj getting traded for years too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a consistent trade talk about Taj. And Taj is never like, I like how it never really affected Taj. Taj has always been a performer in and day out. He's a professional. He is a professional. So I mean, I'd be sad to see Taj go, and I'm sad to see Noah go too, as a Bulls fan.
It's the end of a different era.
Yeah, maybe one more final Bull. That's how we'll end it.
Do you pull this trigger? And this is the last thing I'm going to say for the podcast.
All right.
Taj Gibson, $8.5 million for Jeff Green, who expires at the end of the year.
No,
I don't know.
Taj Gibson, who he's got 2 years, Jeff Green, who you'd get just for this year, because let's be honest, we wouldn't re-sign Jeff Green.
But Jeff Green's he's a good shooter, but I mean he's kind of like
Or Courtney Lee, pick one.
I think
whichever
I'd go for
one
Jeff
you
Green.
want.
I think I would take that trade.
I don't know, maybe it's just my like feelings towards Taj, but I don't like Jeff Green.
Courtney Lee, we would have to pull a little bit more out of Memphis, but Taj for Jeff Green works perfect.
Final thoughts here. Last thing on the Bulls, because we keep bringing up end of an era. D Rose. Is this his last year in a Bulls uniform?
No, next year. He's got one more year.
Well, I was saying maybe they trade him.
No.
They're not going to trade him?
No one's going to want him. He's an injury player.
It's hard to sell him right now. Even though he is performing much better since the face mask removal, the haircut, very famous in Chicago. But no, he's not going anywhere this year.
All right. No D Rose trade. We want Noah out.
I want a superstar gone. Just do it. Draw first blood.
I'd trade LeBron James.
Boogie's
trade LeBron, trade Steph. Let's have a fantasy draft.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's what I want to see, an NBA fantasy draft. Get this whole thing shaken up. Tell us down below who do you think should be traded in the upcoming 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Is a big name going to go? Is it going to be quiet moves? Is it going to be like a Mike Miller trade? I mean, let's see what happens. Do you think?
Let's say Joe Johnson, often rumored. Is he going to go?
I tried to work out a trade for Joe Johnson to the Cavs. Way too much money on Joe Johnson's side. I even tried putting Anderson Varejao in there. Not working out.
One thing we didn't talk about, but I want to hear what the listeners have to say down below. Does a team like Washington or New York try to make some cap room for a KD sweepstakes?
Maybe that's a possible podcast idea, Ricky. Not bad. So tell us down in the comments below, what big name do you think is going to be moved? Is it just going to be quiet moves? Is KD going to go somewhere after this offseason? Tell us what you think about the whole Blake Griffin situation in Los Angeles. Is LeBron a coach killer? We got a lot of topics this week for you. We got a lot of questions, and we want your answers from you. But anyways, this has been the Fast Break Podcast on Most Valuable Podcast Network. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, or like us on Facebook at Most Valuable Podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on SoundCloud. Retweet this, all that. Push us out, because we're great. We love doing this for you guys. I'm Sean Anderson. Alongside me was Dave Oster and Ricky Widmer, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod for more great podcasts.